and I'm a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist. And I'm so happy to be here today with you on behalf of Lending Hearts, presenting a small nutrition program. It's always great to do these and to connect with you and talk about some current nutrition topics, whatever's going on that time of the year. And I'm really excited to bring those to you and share anything. And I always welcome questions. If you want to reach out to me, if you're watching this at a later time, feel free to enter a chat, anything that you like. I'd love to interact with you. And everything we talk about today is also going to be on my website, laurazervos.com. So I will have all the recipes and a summary of what I'm saying here today. And I'm really excited about today because September is Family Meals Month. And, as the last day of August, we could jump into that. And I think that while, January represents the start of a new year, so does September. And as the child of parents that worked in the school system, September always seemed like the new year to me. So we always were excited to get started just like we were in January, maybe even a little bit more reflection and a little bit more planning at that time as we started a new academic year. So, at the end of August and with Labor Day around the corner, yes, we have a few more parties, but we're also thinking about what are we going to do for lunches? And, summertime sometimes has a different feel to it. So we're going to talk about work lunches and also school lunches if you still have children in school, even children in college, and how to pack a good lunch. And also maybe some breakfast ideas in there too. And, the thing is, if planning lunch is no different than planning dinner, right? We're looking for balance. And even the school food lunch program, which, gets a lot of grief, right? They get a lot of people that aren't happy with them, but they do a great job. My fellow dietitians that are working in school food service, they work very diligently to make sure that they're providing our children with a third of the RDA for their age group, that they are getting a balance of carbohydrate, fat, and protein, that there's a balance of fruits, vegetables, lean proteins to keep our kids thinking all day and to keep them energized. And also they're very diligent about getting a serving of a green vegetable, a red vegetable, a dark orange vegetable, so that they're exposed to those, that they're getting a serving or two of legumes per week. So they're very thoughtful about that. And, and we should be too when we're making all of our meals. So no different. We're going to get started right away. I'm really excited about this first thing because it can be used for breakfast or it can be used for lunch, and they are egg bites. And I make these all the time for my family, and everything that we're making here today, I make for my family. I recommend to my clients. They're all tried recipes. So I think that you'll like them. I've got a lot of good feedback about them. And so let's get started. Again, the first thing that we're making today are egg bites. And what I love about these, you could eat them fresh out of the oven, or if you want to put them in a nice storage container in your refrigerator, they will last for you all week long. And you could just heat them up in the microwave. So sometimes during the school year, I just wrap them, put them in the microwave and give them to my kids if they're just eating on their way out the door. We don't like to eat and run, but if we do, hopefully they have something good and warm in them to get their day started. Also, we take them to lunch. You could eat them cold. You could reheat them however you like to do it. So let's get started. And a lot of variations. I'm going to just show you a few today, but obviously that's the one basic recipe, the one basic principle, and you could get as creative as with it as you like. Maybe you don't like some of the ingredients I'm using. They're just a suggestion. Again, thinking about keeping those principles of planning a good lunch in mind. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to use a method similar to the sous vide method, and that method, sous vide, is when a food is in it's usually sealed into a plastic pouch, and it's submerged into some water, and there's a probe in there that gets the electrons moving, that really cooks our food that way. This method that we're going to use today is slightly different, but it's going to give us the same effect. It's going to give us a moist product. We're not going to have to worry about this browning or burning or scorching. We are going to get a little brownness on top, but the bottom is going to be delicious and it's going to be cooked through very evenly. So what we're going to do is we have a silicone baking dish. It's like a muffin pan, if you will. And what I've done is I have greased this already. And what we do, obviously, this cannot go in the oven like it is, it will melt. But I have a pan that's larger than this pan, and it's filled about, I would say, a ½ inch of water, 3/4 of inch of water. And we're going to set that in there. So let me show you what that looks like so you could see. So there is my pan of water, you can see here. And I might even add a little bit more. You have to be careful. You don't want to add too much, but if you don't add enough, the water will. That's what we don't want. So just add a little bit. Okay. So we're going to put this in here, and I will keep the camera here so you could see all the toppings. First, I like to start with cheese, and a good cheese that I like to use is Gruyere. It gives it a nice flavor. So I'm just going to put, I found that just a little amount like that is about a ½ of a tablespoon. So I like to put one in each of those. And again, you could use cheddar, you could use Swiss, you could use any cheese that you like, even feta would work. One. Borrow a little bit here. You could use Parmesan, anything that you like on this. Okay. And then you could use whatever vegetables. Today I have some chopped red roasted peppers. I love these. They add so much flavor. Just a couple in each one. And then I have measured this out before. Let's make our last one. Spinach. I just sauteed some fresh spinach. And again, you could mix them. I've done onions. You could do, I mean, I'm keeping these vegetarian. Well, we have the cheese in there. I'm keeping them meatless, I should say. But I have in the past, I put a little prosciutto in here. I put bacon in them. You know, all kinds of variations. So whatever you like, whatever your family likes, I'm sure will be good. And then I like to buy the liquid egg whites. You can certainly make your own egg whites. But if I don't have a plan for all those egg yolks, I don't do that because I just don't want to waste any egg yolks. And I like to keep these on hand, you know, in case I want something quick. So the beauty about using the egg whites too, 3/4 cup is going to give us 20 grams of protein. 20 grams of protein, no carb, no fat. So they're an excellent source of protein, very low calories, only 100 calories. So, you know, when you're looking at the whole egg, you are going to get a little bit more saturated fat and fat. So I think egg whites are a great alternative if you're trying to increase that protein, but maybe you don't want to increase the fat. Okay, perfect. It's usually about 1.5 cartons. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this in a 350-degree oven. And you could see that I am pressing my luck with my water level here. Just, you know, maybe I shouldn't have added that last one, but I just really hate to take any out. Just don't want to get that in the oven, and we will start on our next item. That's probably going to take most of class time to cook. So that's why I wanted to get that in. It's about 50 minutes. So that'll take quite some time. The next thing that we are going to make, and I started prepping them already because it takes a little bit of time too, is garbanzo beans that have been toasted. And yesterday, before class, I wanted to go to the grocery store so I could tell you about some of my reasons for doing some of these things. Because I found that the bag, and they were a certain brand, and they're just called chickpea snacks, and they come in lots of flavors. But here's some of the advantages of making our own, right? The cost of a can of garbanzo beans, chichi beans, whatever we call them, are a lot cheaper than buying them already prepared. Number two is we know what the ingredients are. We don't have to buy theirs. We don't have to have any with any extra anti-caking ingredients or extra preservatives. We're just making ours fresh, and we're going to put them in an airtight jar when we're done. So we'll have them for quite some time. Probably definitely use them up before they go bad. I know that. But it's just great to do them your own if you have a chance, and they don't take long at all. It takes about 35 to 45 minutes and super easy. The hardest part, which I've already done before class started, was to pour them in a colander. And I don't know if you've ever used garbanzo beans before, but when you pour them into a colander, if you were to just dump them in there, you'll see you get all kinds of foam. It's just like a little bit of salt, a little bit of starch. So you want to rinse that off really well. And then you have to pat them dry. So I lay them out on a paper towel and pat them dry, because they will never get crispy if there's any amount of liquid on. Oil, of course, is okay. And that's what we're going to do today. But if they are wet, they're just going to steam and they're going to be mushy, just like other things that we've talked about that we're making. We always talk about that with fish, right? You got to remove all the liquid so it's not a mushy product. What we want to do is get it nice and roasted and toasted, and they're going to get nice and crispy for us. So let's look at those garbanzo beans right here. And like I said, mine all nice and dry, not wet. And if you see, if you want to get rid of any of the hulls, that's fine. If you leave them on, that's okay too. They just stop and they're just part of the snack, right? So we're going to put these in a stainless bowl. And we are going to add some olive oil, just about a tablespoon, not much at all. And smoked paprika and a little bit of garlic. Probably about a teaspoon of smoked paprika and about a half teaspoon of garlic. And that's going to give it a real nice flavor. And again, no funny business here. A little bit of salt and pepper. Okay. And then we're just going to, and I'll show you, we're just going to toss those together. Just real lightly to make sure that they get coated. And I'm actually going to add a little bit more paprika. I think they could just a little bit more. And that's all you have to do. So think about packing lunches. People say, I hear all the time, I don't have time for preparing, some of these things. These are so easy, and try to get into the habit whenever you're making dinner the night before, or whenever you do have your oven on, that you could throw some of these things in the oven. It's just a small sheet pan. It's flat. It could go in any time that you're cooking anything else for 45 minutes, and it's done. The same with sometimes the vegetables, we could roast them while we're making other things at dinner. We make extra. Those are all good ways to stay ahead of the schedule and make sure that you always have something healthy and prepped ready to go for yourself. So you have some good go-to snacks. And that makes it, it's all in the planning, right? So if you, I'm just taking a sheet pan and I lined it with parchment paper. And we're just going to spread those out. All we have to do. And this is what they look like. And we're going to pop those in the oven. So much to talk about, so many good snack ideas. But before we do that, let's talk about how we're going to get our snacks there and how we're going to keep them. So if you're talking about our kids at school, we have lots of options, a lot more options than we had years ago. So many containers are out there. And for children, they have insulated lunch bags. I highly recommend putting an ice pack in them. Sometimes they have the lunch bag where you could actually stick it in the freezer and it stays cold, and then you add everything. Those are all good ways to keep our food cold. We want to keep it out of that temperature danger zone, right? So if it's our food for work, if you're lucky enough to have a refrigerator at work, that's fantastic. If not, make sure you're always using an ice pack, or we want to keep our cold foods cold and our hot foods hot, nothing in between. So just some containers that I like. I like these small containers. They're excellent for just about anything, dips, sauces, small servings of vegetables, small servings of nuts, cheese, raisins, whatever you like. These are very convenient. This is my favorite one for salad dressing. I use these all the time. We have a lot of them here at home. You could put salad dressing. If I send my kids with maybe like a chicken, I will put some type of dipping sauce in here, either buffalo sauce, barbecue sauce, some type of ranch dip that they could put in here. And those are nice. That stays really nice. These are all dishwasher safe. Sometimes I do hand wash them though, just so I can keep track of them. And for us grown-ups, because this might not fit into a lunchbox, I like to do some of these divided containers. You could do your entree, a starch, vegetable, or however you like, salad, protein, any of those. And college kids might like these too if you have any commuters. They work really well. And they're designed for meal prep with the 3 different sides. And it's nice to stock up on these if you are doing meal prep for the week and you're making maybe a dozen chicken breasts, you're making a whole head of cauliflower, a whole head of broccoli, maybe a whole package of red skin potatoes. You could go ahead and lay your containers out. Okay, chicken breast, potatoes, veg, and there you go. You have a nice hot lunch every day for work. And you've only done, it's only one day of prep, right? So it's much easier. If you're prepping, it takes really just as much work to make one lunch as 10 as if it's the same thing. So I highly recommend meal prepping. It's getting a lot of attention now. People are finding the advantages of it. And it really, if you plan your meals, then you're less likely to go out for fast food or be at the mercy of a vending machine, right? And that brings me to another point. The main reason that I had touched about the children having being fueled so they can learn, because you can't learn on an empty stomach. We want to make sure, if you've ever checked in with yourself, if you're on a typical schedule and you get to work around 8 or 9 and you've had breakfast in the morning and maybe you eat typically at 12. Some people notice at 2 p.m. that they have that afternoon slump, and that might have them running to a vending machine, turning towards caffeine or sugar to pick themselves up. When really, if you pack the right lunch, you should be able to sail right through to the next meal. You might need a snack. Maybe you want a snack. Maybe you have time to have a snack, but it's because you're choosing to have a snack, not because you want to take a nap. And, looking for that correct balance of carbs, fat, and protein is so important, because if we have a meal that has too much carb, it could leave us sluggish. If we have a meal that has too much fat, it could also leave us tired, right? Because we're working so hard to digest that fat. That could also just leave us, hey, I'm going to take a nap now at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. So really important to find that right balance of a lean protein, of vegetables, fruits, the good carbohydrates that we want. We want to avoid the refined ones, and, some healthy fats, thinking avocados, those type of things. So anyhow, let's put our containers aside. In addition to our containers, we also have the snack bag, which are, just wonderful. The great thing about these, I've seen them come in they come in the sandwich size, they come in the snack size. I don't think larger ones are typically for lunch. Maybe you do need one for lunch, but these are so useful, and you could get them anywhere. You get them in a grocery store, the bigger box stores. You don't need to have the fancy brands. Most of them will work just fine. And, typically, for me too, like if I'm just taking almonds, I like to reuse them, as long as it's not something messy in there, or, like fresh vegetables or something like that. That makes it difficult. But if it's just almonds or maybe some pretzels or pita chips. Sometimes you could just reuse them. So that makes these nice. They're a go-to for me in many instances. So while our things are cooking, let's talk about some of the things that are really good and balanced and how we could take them for lunch. Couple things. And I'm also going to talk about price and cost, because, you know, it can get very expensive to pack lunch. You know, obviously it's cheaper than going out to eat, but we want to be careful. And if we're cooking on a budget, you want to keep in mind what's the best way to do these things. So this is not to pick on this company, but this is it is a great product. It's a great tasting product, but we could probably do this on our own, right? It has the yogurt on one side. It has some granola, some coconut shavings, and almonds on the other side. Excellent product, quality product. Is it more expensive than buying in bulk? Of course it is. So I encourage you to, maybe get the full a plain yogurt. You could always put some honey in a container like this, or drizzle some right on there. And then we could add our own nuts, our own coconut shavings, anything like that. We could always make a batch of those on our own. But this is like an excellent part of our lunch, because each cup is about 20 grams of protein. Same for cottage cheese, about 20 grams of protein per cup. Some people forget about cottage cheese. It's an excellent source of protein, excellent source of calcium. So good to include into our diet occasionally, correct? So, buying some of these things are really useful. Now, I'm not against every convenience product. Sometimes there are things that I like. I do like pouches or containers of applesauce, because sometimes even the smallest jar of applesauce, which might not be cost effective to buy the smallest jar. In my family, that jar could spoil quickly. So I like these because, there's one package, you're done. One package, you're done. I don't have to worry about this going bad in the back of my refrigerator with some furry mold on it. So it's great to have some of these products around. They could be, and what I like about these as well is I keep them in the refrigerator. I add them to the lunch, and it helps keep lunch cold. So just really nice product to have around, and they're the right portion size, and that's something that we're going to talk about too. So good to keep these around. Okay. Of course, I like talking about making our own snacks. I like to buy these things in bulk. This is just a dry roasted almond, excellent product. I also like to have, raisins around, and, to just like we were talking about, maybe on the yogurt, or put on some peanut butter on an apple, or just have them as a snack. Very, very important to make sure that we always check the portions on these things. And I've talked about it many times, but this is that snack bag that I was talking about. So you could see it. I'll put it right in front of me. That is 1 ounce or 1/4 cup of almonds. That's 170 calories. So you wouldn't want to just dump these into a bowl, or dump them into a bag without knowing how much you're having. Even if it's not a matter of weight management, portion control is still important. It's important for all of us, even our children that may have higher energy needs than us, because we still need to adhere to portion size. We still need to know, are we having a serving of nuts a day? Or, maybe you're having 3 servings, maybe you're not having a serving. That's at the other end. If you're just having a small serving of lettuce, tomatoes, or cucumbers, it might not even be a whole vegetable yet. So, trying to stay within portion size is very important. Also, I like to look at the portion size for snack items as well. Other snack items like pretzels, potato chips. It's usually a 1 ounce serving is a serving of potato chips, pretzels, some of the other snack foods. So I like to weigh them. This is how many pretzels you get. So that is a 1 ounce. So how many times did you ever notice that maybe you've just kind of filled the bag all the way up? So check out the portion size. Check out, there are miniature graham crackers. There's a brand name of them. They're very cute. And, if you look at the label, a serving size might just be 12 of those. So you just wouldn't want to fill them up. without knowing that, because you could, even while it's a good product, there are still sugars in that. There is still carbohydrate in that. There's sugar in our raisins, right? So you want to make sure that you are portioning these out. And these make together with some cheese make a fantastic snack. And lately, talking about price, a whole bag of these, right, can be pricey, but it's still less expensive than if you were to buy right now. There is a popular brand out there that has a container size probably about as big as this lid, and they promote that they are a balanced snack, which they are. They're a fantastic balanced snack. And there's many different varieties. Sometimes they have turkey or ham. They might have a couple of almonds. They may have a couple of cheese, or ham and some raisins or cranberries, and a little bit of cashews. So they have many different varieties of these. Fantastic idea, fantastic concept. I love them. You could grab them and know that, oh, I'm eating something that's balanced. I don't have to worry about portion size. It's being done for you. But when you're packing lunches on a daily basis, I did check out one of those yesterday, and the name brand was $4 per serving. So that is really high if you think about it. So I recommend making those on your own. And what we could do is just take a little bit of cheese, take a couple of almonds, and take them. This is exactly what was in that package at a fraction of the cost. So I highly encourage you to do that. Plus, we know what this is. Maybe we don't want the cheese that they have. Maybe we want a different nut. Maybe we want raisins or craisins or cranberries, so whatever you like, maybe even just chopped up apples and cheese, right? There's so many variations you could do to this. But what is great about this is it is balanced, right? We have a little bit of carb, a little bit of protein. And of course, the almonds are the perfect mix of carbohydrate, protein, and fat. So it gives you a little bit of everything, which is fantastic. That's why almonds get so much press these days. They're just just a really great food. So something like this, and this is what a portion is. This is what a portion is. So, trying the other thing about serving our children the correct portion size, and certainly they might be able to have 2 portions of something, but it trains our eye to see whenever we're going to get something, oh, that's a portion of nuts, that's a portion of cheese, that's a portion of chicken. So it gets us trained, because sometimes, a bowl of cereal, if you look at the portion size, some granolas might be, a half a cup. Some Cheerios or rice, crisped rice, or things like that. A whole cup might be the serving. Same calories. Maybe 100 calories is a half cup of this cereal, and it's a whole cup of that cereal. It's good to look at that. Pour it into a bowl. See what it looks like in your bowl. And then every once in a while, get that measuring cup, because sometimes those portions tend to grow. It's good to keep an eye on those things to just check. To see where you're at. But anyhow, this is an excellent portion. This is an excellent snack, very balanced. I have a client recently that started doing this. He's like, wow, that's really filling. It is. It's really filling, and it's really a nice ratio. Again, any kind of cheese you like. Maybe this is feta, a couple of cashews, and some olives. All great ideas here. So a good little snack. Okay. Let's talk about some other things. We'll put our almonds and raisins. And I'm going to give the chickpeas a little bit of a stir so they don't burn. They're coming along nicely. So let's talk about some other things that we could give to our children before we get into some of the miscellaneous snacks. The next thing that I like to do, I like to make wraps. And I don't know about your kids, but this was the experience with mine. One day, oh my goodness, I love such and such yogurt. I love such and such sandwich. That might last 3 days, and it's 3 days later, don't ever give me that sandwich again. I hate that yogurt. So you may need to switch it up. And if you give the same thing every day, they can get burnt out on it. Now, there's some kids that they want the same sandwich every single day, and that's fine. But If you see that that sandwich bag is coming home or the lunch box is coming home with a half-eaten sandwich, it's time to start thinking, how could I change this up a little bit? So I'm going to give you a few ideas of some things I like to do. And I will adjust my camera. So I have here, they look like they're white, but they're actually whole grain tortillas, and they are a carb balanced tortilla. Each and not all tortillas are created equal. This one I love. There are 19 grams of carbohydrate, 15 grams of fiber. What an excellent way to get our fiber. And remember, our fiber intake for the day should be anywhere between 25 and 35 grams. Men are closer to the 35, women are closer to 25, but isn't that a great way to get almost half or more than half of your fiber for the whole day? Because fiber, as we know, is not easy to get. So what I like to do is start with my wrap, and then I like to, so we'll just get some protein here, and I have some baked chicken, and it just has a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic, and paprika. So I see a little bit of orange on there. You could do whatever seasonings you want. And you could, there's so many too. So let's say on this one, we're gonna, so remember, we're trying to get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. This one, and you could also make these lettuce wraps too. You could do many things. We can make pinwheels. We could put like a cream cheese on here, or cream cheese mixed with pesto and spread it all over here and roll it up with our meat and vegetables. So many variations. Okay, so we have that. And what I like to do too for my kids, this one I think I'm going to make Caesarish, and this one maybe buffalo. So this one I'm going to put add a little bit of buffalo sauce to this. And this is just, we had made something the other night, so I had some left over, and that's what I like to do. So I have and try to save those things. And for this Caesar wrap, I have a couple pieces of lettuce, some chicken, and I'm going to put a little bit of Caesar dressing on here. And for the Caesar one, I'm going to use a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Like that. And for my buffalo one, I'm going to use a little bit of mozzarella. And I think I'm going to stop here. You could see how easy that was, getting a lot of lettuce there. And let me towel. And I wrap it, and there's so many ways that you could wrap this, but I usually just put it like this, and I put it in a little bit of plastic wrap. You could also fold this over, fold your sides in, and go like this. Then that way it's not coming out for your children or you know, whoever is eating this. And on this one, there's something a little different. Let's maybe on our buffalo one, maybe we could add a little bit of tomato here. You know, and the thing is too, you could have your children help you make these. It's great. It's a good idea to get them to buy into it. I like to treat this in my house like, okay, let's pretend we're at that restaurant where after you pick out your protein and your cheese, there are lots and lots of vegetables there to pick from. You see cucumbers, spinach, lettuce. Look at this, how yummy this is going to be. You know, a couple of onions. So these kind of things really add so much flavor and keep our kids and ourselves from getting bored. And I'm also going to put some, maybe like a yellow pepper ring on this one. So you could see where I'm going here. It's a buffalo one, but we kind of added some different things to it. But that's going to be really tasty. So we have lots of vegetables on there. So think lean protein, a good complex carbohydrate, lots of vegetables, and we even have a little bit of dairy on there. So excellent, excellent. I just love this. I love how colorful it is. I mean, who wouldn't want to have something like that for lunch? And we'll just roll it up as best as we can. So there we go. All right, so two different ideas for wraps there. And again, we could try, and I have some, we'll have some, you know, we could do the same thing with the pita bread. We could either make triangles, we could fold it in half. I'm not against, I like to use leftover chicken, and sometimes whenever I'm making dinner, I make extra chicken so I have it available for these lunches. But if you don't have that available to you and you want to buy a lunch meat, that's fine. What I recommend, and trying to check the brand here, I like an organic one. They don't have to be organic, but you will see that they are no sugars added, no nitrates and nitrites. That's so important. And no antibiotics, of course. But the thing that I really look for are no nitrates and no nitrites. So important to get something good like that. If you cannot make the chicken on your own, this option is always available to you. And I've seen this for many processed foods, hot dogs, sausage, bacon. You could definitely find some with no nitrates and no nitrites. So always a good option to have those available. So let's put that aside and get through the rest of our items today. So of course, whenever we're talking about good, healthy snacks, we're always going to mention fruits and vegetables. So I have cut up some carrots, broccoli and cauliflower. So we could just get our bag and take a handful of carrots. You know, we could just do carrots. We could put some cauliflower in there. Let's see here. And you want to make sure too, whether it's for yourself or for your children, bite-sized pieces or pieces that are easy to grab. Don't make the cauliflower so big that it's impossible. Again, if you put in things like that, just like if you give your kids this whole apple, even yourself, it's kind of hard to eat. Look how big this apple is. It's a really big one because we're in fall, right? Fall's around the corner, I should say. But if you send these, you're going to see less acceptance. You're going to see a lot of this. You might not see it coming home because it might go right in the trash at school. But sometimes you'll see some of these come home because it's just too hard to eat. If you're going to go with, I love these. They're just such a great product. They're so easy to peel, but even though they're easy to peel, sometimes I peel these for my younger kids because it's just easier to eat. They could just pop it in their mouth. They just have to undo them, but they're such a nice snack. And again, you could have really 2 of these for a serving of fruit, which is really nice. Good to have on here. I also love to have bananas. Okay, but what's the story with bananas? Sometimes if we put the bananas in our lunch bag, everything will smell like banana. So you have to be careful. Maybe you want to put it in a separate bag, and also in a brown bag, sometimes they will get very, very ripe. So you might want to try something different with those. What I like to do, let's move our vegetables. And we also have some broccoli. So we could just put something in like this. And again, look, nice and colorful. So between that or the sandwich, we have something really nice. We had our other snacks, all really good. So about bananas, excuse me, we could do with bananas, hold on. Sorry about that. What we could do with bananas, it's an English muffin or a rice cake. And what we could do is we could put some almond butter or peanut butter on this and maybe a few slices of banana. That's a great way to get a banana. Also, like I said, it also works very well with an English muffin. And then after you do the peanut butter or almond butter and a couple slices of banana, you could sprinkle with a little bit of cinnamon. If you have to, you could cut it in half and make it like a sandwich. So so it's easy to transport, and then your kids could always, or you could always undo it. But this makes a fantastic snack. There's many different flavors, plain, and then you could add, depending on what you add too, you could really change that up. And just watch the sugar content on these, but some of these can be an excellent source of fiber for you as well. So always good to keep those things in mind. So we always have vegetables. Fruits are also an excellent source. Again, if we're going to have this apple, I would recommend cutting it. I don't peel them necessarily for my kids or myself, but I will cut it, and I do sprinkle it with lemon juice because as the day goes on, it could oxidize. If it oxidizes, it gets brown. Are people going to eat it? No, especially kids, right? There's something wrong with my apple. It's brown. So we want to keep it, and the lemon adds a nice little flavor to it too. It brings out the natural sweetness of the apple or whatever you're putting it on. So always a great idea to do that. Skipping around here, same with our peaches. They're wonderful right now this time of year. I would definitely wash it, remove the pit, and we have to be careful with our children, right? What size, especially the younger children. Grapes you may need to still cut in half. We're going to talk about some other products here today. Not sure, you have to see, we'll get to them about, your school's policy on those, but make sure that you do cut these things. So, you want them to be able to pick them up, but you also want it to be something that they could chew easily. If there's any, laughing at the table or something, you wouldn't want anything to get lodged in there. You could have an incident. And so also, really good idea to keep an eye on those things. One thing that I skipped, and I apologize, when we were talking about the vegetables, I wanted to mention that, this is going to go much better. This might come back home if you send it like this, but if you send it with some dip, it's going to go really well. So typically what I like to do, and I do this a lot for myself for work, is I get one of the containers and I get some low-fat sour cream. And I add just a little bit of either a French onion dip mix or a ranch dip mix, and you just need a little sprinkle on here. And if it's low-fat sour cream, it could be as low as 40 calories a teaspoon. So not going to ruin our appetite for the next meal. It's not going to be too much fat, but it'll be enough that it will hold us, and it'll be, make our vegetables a little bit more interesting. And that's all you need. And, it makes it easy for your kids. It makes it fun. And it also makes them tastier too. So that's just something nice. And like I said, if you have these in the refrigerator the night before, this in the refrigerator, put in there with an ice packet, should still be good by the time our kids get to it at lunchtime. And sometimes depending on your school, the population of your school, sometimes our kids are eating at 10 in the morning for lunch. Sometimes they're eating at 1 in the afternoon. So really important to keep those cold foods cold and hot foods hot. Speaking of keeping hot foods hot, this was one of my best friends when my children were growing up, this little thermos. You used to see them a long time ago. People would take coffee or soup in them. You would see those pictures of men that had their lunchbox. But I think there might have been a character on here at one time that got worn off from all the use. But these are fantastic. I love these. So what I like to do is in the morning while I will heat up something, and we'll talk about that. Fill this up with nice hot water to get the thermos warm, right? So fill it up with hot water, close it up, and then you could get whatever you want. I used to do, I would send chili, soup, buttered noodles, pesto pasta, any kind of pasta, meat sauce, anything that we had the night before. If it went really well at dinner, I might be putting it in here because there's nothing like a hot meal for lunch, and it's really good acceptance. Sometimes it's just like a little slice of home, and I find this with myself. If you are giving it to your kids, be careful with sending hot soup, especially like a broth-based soup like wedding soup or chicken noodle soup, where if you filled it too high, it can slip out easily. Sticking with something like chili or some of the creamier soups, it's not going to is not going to, readily spill. So, and you might need to go over that with your children too at home. How do I open this up really carefully? Maybe I should put a napkin over it and then open it up carefully, and then just send them with the utensils to eat this. But it's just it's such a great convenience product, that keeps our food nice and hot. I'm always surprised. I always remember asking my kids, was your soup hot? Was your chili hot? Oh yeah, it was. And I've used this myself too. So it's a really great option. And the other use too, you could also put oatmeal, cream of wheat, any kind of breakfast in there, something that you could keep nice and hot. So soups, stews, anything that has, things like certain things that aren't going to work in here, plain chicken breast, or like, leftover piece of pork chop or some type of meat like that. It has to be, for this to work, it's going to have to be something that has a sauce on it, or, or a lot of heavy liquid content. Like I'm talking about like a soup or a stew, like chili. Those other ones, it's not going to really work and keep it nice and hot. It's not going to, keep like something like that. So let's move on. All right, so we talked about vegetables and dip. We talked about our hot container, some of our wraps. Another nice product I like, when you're looking at, I've seen these Parmesan crisp, many different brands, no carb, a little bit of fat, and some high in protein. So a really good snack. And, trying to avoid that 2 or that 3 p.m. slump requires the correct balance of carbohydrate, fat, and protein. We also have to think about maybe those kids that are staying after for an after school activity, or if you know that you're going to be staying late for work, if you need another snack, what should that be? Well, that could look like our breaks here, our balanced little snack here. That this is something good for and even for a child that's staying after school for chess club or biology club or something like that. But our student athletes that are going to be exercising for another 2 hours, we need to do something differently. So we need to make sure that they have plenty of protein at lunch, and that around 2 o'clock if they can. And now I see that, the kids that I've talked to in my practice, they are allowed to have, eat from a snack during class. I would recommend a protein bar, and then we're going to get into another something here that you could pack for them. But, a granola bar, a piece of fruit, something with a little bit more complex carbohydrate, not too much fat. We have to be really careful about fat at this meal because fat takes longer to digest and you don't want to have them cramping. The same with a lot of sugar. It could cause other issues. So we want to make sure that we give them something with complex carbohydrate and some protein to keep them fueled. The other thing that's super important about work and school is to stay hydrated. You want to make sure that you're getting those, depending where you are, anywhere from 6 to 9, maybe children on the lower end, adults are closer to 8 glasses of water a day. Children could get headaches during the day, and sometimes it's because, it's nothing else other than they're dehydrated. They may have difficulty concentrating. It might be because they're dehydrated. So it's really good to stay hydrated. Adults, maybe we find that we're hungry. Maybe we're not hungry. We could just be dehydrated. So if you think you're thirsty, you're already on your way to being dehydrated. So it's good to keep drinking. Whatever tricks that you have to do. There's all kinds of graduated cups that have the marking on, so you can see how much you're drinking. They encourage you to drink more. There's timers that we get set on our devices, as adults, so we could do those simple things. We could keep track of how many bottles, anything like that's going to help. Let's get another snack here that we're talking about for our athletes, our kids that are staying afterwards. I have some celery. And we could do a couple things with this. We can, and we're going to cut up our apple too while we're here. And we're also going to, let's go ahead and make this. Take some almond butter and put some on here. And this is what I wanted to touch on before. For adults, this is great. For children, you don't know, there could be a peanut policy at your child's school. In case that if your child does have somebody in class, sometimes there are specific lunch tables that are designed for kids that have peanut allergies. Sometimes if there aren't any children that have a peanut allergy, you could still bring in snacks like this. You just have to find out what your school policy is. For adults, you just have to be mindful of the people that may have peanut allergies. So we're just going to put a little bit of almond butter on here. And this is a great afternoon snack for the athlete. Fantastic. Protein, a little bit of carb, a good fat that should be able to be digested. We're not putting a large portion on there. We just swiped it on here. Now we're going to take our banana, put a few slices of banana on here. And remember, the more that we keep up with this variety, the more our children are going to accept it, the more we accept it. Is that right? I have some clients that they'll get on a roll with having the same thing every day, and it's working for them. Their health is good, everything is going along, and they're like, they'll get off track and they'll say, I couldn't eat that anymore. Well, you have to have a variety, right? We're not meant to eat the same thing every day. What we're looking for is a nice diverse gut. And how do you get a diverse gut? With a diverse intake, right? That diverse gut keeps our immunity up. It keeps us healthy. So we want to make sure that to get that, we have to eat a variety of foods. We can't eat the same single thing every single day. And if we are meal prepping, I get this question a lot. If we are meal prepping, is it okay if I eat the same thing? I'm like, sure, as long as next week we're changing that up. You wouldn't want to have the same thing every single week after week after week. But this is what I'm talking about with the rice cake, almond butter, and bananas on top. Again, we could sprinkle this with a little bit of cinnamon, and we could also put this on a whole grain English muffin, half of an English muffin. Or if you use a whole English muffin, then you have a lid for that. So something to think about there. And we could also put inside our celery stick, we could either use in the dip, or we could just put this on here. And that goes in nice and easy. All of these things are fun to eat too. Okay, and they have good acceptance rates with our kids. And like I was mentioning the school lunch program before, and their efforts to provide us something balanced too. If your child does go through there, sometimes there are really good people there that will notice when our kids are throwing away food or something like that, and they'll offer them something else, or they may send a note home, hey, child's not eating this, that, or the other. So it is sometimes good to have that as well. Or, you might see a monitor will tell you, kids throwing away a lot of their lunch. So it's good to be in communication with them. Let's see. We could also do this with our apple. So I just want to show you what that looks like. Just make a few slices. And this is something that's really fun to do for kids. We could take our apple and we could put almond, whatever you like, and get it like this. And this is a good snack for after school as well. On here, and it doesn't want to stick. And then you could even take these, put a couple of raisins on an apple with some butter, peanut butter, not butter, whatever you like. Cashew butter, almond butter, all those are great to have. So a couple things there. And then one other protein that I forgot about. And don't just assume because something that you don't like, that your kids don't like, try the tuna, try some of these. I think this is a great, when we're talking about convenience products, you can buy a can of tuna and put it in something like this, that's fine. But these stay really nice and fresh. They go on sale frequently and they are cost effective. So good to keep in mind. One of these packets has 17 grams of protein. This particular one is in sunflower oil, so it's going to have a little bit more fat, 8 grams of fat, only 1 sat fat, and 0 carbs. No added sugar, and the only ingredient is tuna. So, and the oil, and the sunflower oil. So that makes a nice product, gives you that nice boost of protein for lunch, So we have the chicken, and certainly we said about the luncheon meats that we could use without nitrates and nitrites. Another good source of protein. Our egg bites are another source of protein. So let's get checking on them. They could be used for breakfast or lunch. And the other thing I wanted to show you before I get my egg bites, we could use this to make the pinwheels. We could take our wrap and put some cream cheese on it and put all the vegetables and the turkey that we did and roll it up and slice it. That's a lot of fun. And we could also put some cream cheese on our celery. So we haven't used too much. I mean, we used the pita bread, we used the tortilla, but also just a lot of fruits and vegetables and some things like that, and some protein foods and a balance. So, and that's what we're looking for, that balance of all three of them. So let me get out our protein bites. Yeah. So this is the red pepper and egg. This is the spinach. Another variation you could do for these, you know, they come out so nice and fluffy. Another variation that you could do for these as well, you could always, for some extra protein, you could always add cottage cheese. One of the coffee shops that sells egg bites, there's several out there that do. One of the coffee shops puts cottage cheese in there. You'll notice it has a little bit different taste, but it has a little bit more body. These also have excellent body. I think that gray air gives it an excellent taste. But something, you know, this is a great snack. And again, we could pop 2 of these in our plastic bag and take them, you know, and, you know, you're getting a serving of vegetables or a partial serving of vegetables. And, you know, they look appetizing too, and it looks like something that you want to eat. So let's look at our chickpeas. Now, what's nice about the chickpeas, and you can hear how crunchy? So these are our chickpeas. Let me adjust the camera there, how nicely they came out. They're nice and crunchy, and I think you'll really like this. I used a smoked paprika, which gives it a really, if you haven't experimented with that before, that gives it a really, just like another dimension of flavor. Combined with the garlic, salt, and pepper, it just gives another dimension of flavor. Not just your average salted, you know, salted crunchy snack. So these, what I like to do is I like to a lot of my glass jars. So I will put these in here and store them with an airtight lid, and that's a great snack. I could put these, you know, again, I would probably portion out a 1/4 cup of these and put them in a plastic bag. And you could do that. You could do that, you know, from the get-go. You could put that now. I could just put these all in plastic bags, you know, and that way I could just grab and go. You know, why do the work 2 times? Or maybe you have a bag for home and or a jar for home and one that you are going to have your snacks portioned out in. But it's always a good idea to decant some of these bigger snacks like we have here, like and then the raisins. It's a good idea to, you know, put them into smaller bags, especially if you're traveling. You know, recently I was traveling and I made a couple of bags like these, and then everybody's like, wow, that's a portion size. You know, so you kind of slow down a little bit and enjoy them too, and be mindful of what you're having, because if you were to just mindlessly sit there while, you know, watching a sporting event or television show, you could really rack up the calories very quickly. So something to keep in mind. So I hope that gave you a lot of good ideas for packing your lunch. You know, again, all the recipes will be on my website. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you have any special dietary needs, please reach out. If you have any concerns about anything that we talked about today, I encourage you to try these recipes. I really encourage you to try those egg bites and try some variations that you might like on your own. You know, I've also tried mushrooms, like I said, caramelized onions, you know, so many different varieties that you could do. So enjoy. And the other thing, instead of chickpeas, we could have also done edamame. You could, it's hard to find sometimes the edamame. You could always find it frozen. It's not always available in the can, but these are really nice. And you could do the same exact recipe. Just make sure that they're very dry, right? And sometimes if it's frozen, it might hard to get to that state. So, and remember to, provide our kids a variety, give them, especially if you're having difficulty with acceptance, maybe there's something that a taste off, get their input instead of just assuming that they are going to like a certain flavor. Let them pick. Maybe they do want hot peppers and onions. Maybe they don't want those kind of things. Maybe they want cheese. Maybe they want olives on their sandwich. See what they do when you go out to some of the restaurants that you're able to choose. And what we could have also done on these too, we could just put a little bit of oil and vinegar on those instead of the Caesar or the buffalo sauce. So many options out there, just limited by what our own limitations or what stops us from experimenting. So I encourage you to have, try some things. Have a great week. I hope you have a great September and enjoy Family Meal Month. Take care and stay on the path to wellness. Thank you so much and have a great day.